Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is January the 15th. It's a Thursday today. Overall markets, we're actually gapping up here primarily with bullish news on TSM. So we have TSM earnings in the after hours. That's really what's pushing the market towards the upside. And now you can see SPY and Qs, we're gapping up here as well, reclaiming back above our previous day highs. So we'll kind of talk about this coming into today. We do have a little bit of red folder news here as well with some unemployment at 8:30. And then for yesterday, we had some core PPI. We had the tariff news as well. So yeah, there's a decent amount of things to kind of go over with the markets gapping up here. So we'll go over all the major indices and then we'll go on to the tech names here in a second. Before we do that, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning, Psycho. Brutal, B Roots. Can you show the draw line parallel? I think you're just talking about the key levels that I have marked out. Those are on the charts, just old highs and lows. Good morning, Victor, KO Juan. Good morning, Robert, Non-Tolly, Frank, Cody, Chris. I am still. What's up, everyone? Chris, Cinna, Martin, Vic, Big. What's good? Yes, TSM had super solid earnings. That's why the market is up currently. As you can see, TSM. Sorry, had the earnings in the pre-market, and now you can see for the SMH, really solid push towards the upside. So we'll talk about this here in a bit. Good morning, Ryan. Gerald, Lamit, JT, Cosmic, Chris. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's head on to the major indices. Before we do that, let's bring up the economic calendar here and let's take a look at it. Okay. So yeah, coming into today, as you can see, we had some news in the after hours. We have some news in the pre-market with TSM. As for the economic calendar, we have some red folder news here that's going to be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So in about 25 minutes, some unemployment claims. We'll see how this affects the market once again. But let's head on to exactly what we're looking for coming into today. As for the overall QQQ, we ended up dropping towards the downside yesterday. We ended up staying heavy underneath that previous day lows, kind of pushed down in towards our key levels coming into 10 o'clock. And then the major thing was that tariff decision that we had. So a little bit more uncertainty in the markets, but then now ultimately nice little bounce coming into its previous day close. And then of course, we're having this nice push in the pre-market with TSM here. So let's first take a look at the ES. So ES here on the higher time frame. So yesterday, we just came all the way back down in towards key levels of support. If we look at this on the daily chart, we are still fairly bullish. So we have been consolidating just a little bit here on the daily time frame, but overall higher time frame still building up these higher lows. And as you can see, buyers are still stepping in, still building up these higher lows. What we like to see is the reclaim back above our previous all-time highs for this continuation back towards the upside. If you look at the NQ, still inside of this range. We're still building these higher lows. We're still building these lower highs. What we like to see is the break above that 628 on the QQQ still. That's going to be the key on the Qs. As for the NQ, we really need to break outside of this period of consolidation if we want to see any sort of continuation higher. So still technically intact here on the higher time frames on both the ES and the NQ. As for the SPY, you can see just basically using this previous all-time highs as a retest level for the QQQ, still building up these higher lows. As you can see, what we're waiting for is eventually that break above our 628 for that continued push back towards the highs. Let's first talk about the ES and the levels coming into today. Let's go into the lower time frames. As for the ES, the levels that we have marked out, Friday's lows of last week, but the levels primarily for today is going to be the low that we created here. This was on Tuesday, and then we have your Wednesday's highs. And then we also have another key level here, which is your previous day close, if I'm not mistaken, from Tuesday. So These are the key levels that I have marked out for the ES coming into market open. We have your 69.90 and we also have our 69.70s, and the next level towards the upside is going to be that 7,005. So for the ES, there's a couple long scenarios coming into market open. Number one is going to be the bounce play that we have off our 69.90 for this continuation higher. Another potential scenario is going to be the bounce off our 69.70s for this pushback towards the upside. Of course, if buyers step in, right off the bat, we could be looking for longs above our 7,500, which I don't expect to happen. So the first two scenarios, either the bounce off our 69.90 or the 69.70s, is going to be key for some upside here. I'd much rather look for some pullback longs on the ES, since now we're reclaiming back above key levels. I want to see if the buyers step in. So pullback longs are in play for the ES coming into market open. The only way you're looking for some downside today, so yesterday downside was fairly clear underneath your previous day lows. So we were able to capture some downside yesterday in the markets just because we had a gap down and we stayed heavy underneath that previous day lows. Now we're having a gap up above our previous day highs. So now for today, the only downside scenario that I have for the ES is if we show a lot of weakness, we break underneath the 69.90, and you could be looking for this reversal trade back down in towards our previous day highs and potentially our previous day close. But that's going to only be underneath our 69.90 or now underneath our 69.70s. Sorry, it's our 69.80s for this continued push back down in towards our previous day close. So for longs, I will be looking for pullback longs on the ES and NQ. Unless we show a lot of weakness right off the bat, then we could be looking for some more continuation back towards the downside. So this is what I have for the ES coming into today. If you go on to the SPY chart, let's go into some of the levels that we have marked out for the SPY. It is a little bit cleaner here. So for the SPY, as you can see, what we have marked out is our 690.50. We also have essentially our low that we created here on Tuesday, which coincides with our previous day highs. So for the SPY, you can see nice kind of push towards the downside yesterday. We end up having a bounce in towards our previous. Sorry, can you guys hear me? It seems like my stream disconnected for a bit. Sometimes it does that every once in a while. But can you guys hear me and see my screen? It should be good back up. Frozen, yeah, it should be good. Let's see here. We good back now? Yeah, if you guys have any issues, you guys can always refresh the stream and it should be good. No, it's on my end. So yeah, it should be good. Yes. Morning. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Good now. Okay. If it doesn't work, you guys can just refresh the stream and it should be all set. Okay, so now for the SPY chart, the key levels, we have 694, 692 along with our 690. If we do want to see upside, it's either going to be the bounce off for 692 for this continued push back towards the highs. Another possible scenario, as I mentioned, it's going to be longs above our 694 for this continued pushback towards the highs. As for some downside, as I mentioned, I'm not that interested in downside unless we can get underneath our 692. That's going to be key for some downside, or if we had a really big push lower underneath our 690.50. So this is what we have for the SPY coming into market open. We have a couple scenarios here. As I mentioned, the key levels we're going to keep an eye out on 692 along with the 694. With the markets bouncing here, I'm still fairly bullish here on the higher time frames since we're still holding up on the daily chart. So with this strong reclaim, I'm going to be looking for pullback longs, as I mentioned. And I want to see if the market does want to reclaim and push back towards the upside. So I am basically 60% bullish, right? 40% bearish coming into market open, still open to playing both sides, but I am leaning more bullish coming into today, looking for those pullback longs. All right, this is what we have for the SPY. I'm just going to give it a second and we're going to head on to the NQ. Okay, let's head on to the NQ chart. Internet hates those Canadian winters. Yeah. if you guys remember last year or maybe the year before, I had Starlink. I think it was last year. That I could even stream half the time because it was so cold outside. But good thing I have fiber optic now. But yeah, for the NQ, you can see pretty strong reclaim. We're actually above our Tuesday's lows. We're above our previous day highs after this pretty big drop towards the downside yesterday. Some buyers stepped in and now we're reclaiming back above a key level. So at least moving forward, now we're reclaiming back above our 25,800. I'd just like to see it maintain above this level for this kind of inverse head and shoulders for this continued push back towards the highs. So for the NQ, if you can maintain above our 25,800, we like to see this continue push back up and towards our high for the week, which in this case is our 26,000. So for the NQ coming to market open here today, I actually only have really one major key level, previous day highs along with our Tuesday's lows. What I like to see here is just simply the bounce off our 25,800 for this continued push towards the upside. Another possible scenario here above now our pre-market high for this continued push back up and towards, it's going to be this 26,000. Shorts are in play underneath your previous day highs and underneath your Tuesday's lows. So underneath this level, we can be looking for some more downside for a potential mean reversion back down in towards our previous day close, but that is only underneath that 25,800. So for the NQ, a little bit more cleaner. You only have one key level to keep an eye out for. So that's what we have for the NQ coming into today. As for the QQQ, fairly similar game plan here. Let me kind of just readjust this level just a little bit. So it's your previous day highs up and towards your low that we created here on Tuesday. So the key level that we can have marked out is going to be that 624. So for the QQQ, as you can see here on the higher time frames, we are still bullish. So we are kind of just consolidating in the past week or so, but if you look on the daily chart, we're still technically bullish here since we are building up these higher lows. Once we do get that break above that 628, I've been talking about this for a while here now, we are going to have a really solid explosive move towards our all-time highs once we're finally able to break above that 628. So you can see higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Once we finally break back above that 628, we're going to have this nice push back up and towards our all-time highs. So keep that in mind. Now let's go back onto the lower time frames. As for the key levels that we have marked out coming into today, as I mentioned, 624, previous day highs, along with our low that we created here on Tuesday. So the game plan, what we like to see here for the QQQ is really maintain above our 624 for this continued push back up and towards the highs, or now it's going to be above our pre-market highs for this continuation higher here as well. Downside, as I mentioned, is only in play underneath that previous day highs for this potential continuation back down in towards our previous day close, 619. So a few scenarios here on the QQQ. We're going to be looking for the pullback longs, hold above our previous day highs for continuation. If we do break underneath, then we can be leaning a little bit more bearish and potentially look for that gap fill we created. So this is what we have for the overall indices coming into market open, specifically the ES and the NQ. Let's go on to the SMH here, since this is really what's leading the market back towards the upside. Now let's go on to the semiconductor ETF. Let me actually grab some water here. Let me grab some water here really quickly. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers, of course, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate it if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. How far out are the options expirations? Weekly contracts. Do you market the gaps from the regular trading hours? Yes. So whenever we have gaps in the markets, gaps are key, right? Spying cues, whenever we have these gaps, usually 70% of the time in a 48-hour period, the gaps will fill. So a lot of times we'll have mean reversions, something to keep in mind for these gaps, since there are imbalances in the market. Okay, let's go into the SMH. So the SMH here, this is your semiconductor ETF. So any of the semis, as you can see, are leading essentially the market higher. So well above our all-time highs. We've been talking about the semis for a while for this continued push towards the highs. Every single higher low is being bought up. And now you can see we're continuing towards the upside. So for SMH, continued strength here. Another gap up in the markets, right? Higher lows are being built. The gap up is in result for TSM. So we've been talking about MU, TSM, Intel, really the leaders this year so far for the upside. And these have been fairly solid for the market. So key levels that we can have marked out for the SMH here now is your Tuesday's highs of this week. And we can drag this over. So coming into today here for SMH, we have a pretty big gap up, about 3%. Sorry, 3% here on the SMH coming into market open. We're well above our Tuesday's highs. We're well above our previous day highs. So for the SMH coming to market open here today, potential pullback longs back down towards our 396. Of course, that is fairly far away, but that is your pullback long spot. 396 off your Tuesday's highs. As for another possible scenario, we could be looking for this consolidation period for this push towards the highs, or now you're going to be waiting for the break above your pre-market highs for this continuation higher here as well. So for the SMH, with this pretty big gap up, just keep an eye out for these pullback longs for continuation higher. Only way you're bearish on SMH is if we can have a gap fill reversal underneath your 396, but very unlikely that we're going to have a huge reversal, break back underneath your Tuesday's highs, and we could be looking for some continuation towards the downside. So this is what we have for the SMH today. So keep an eye out on your 396 and also keep an eye out on intraday price action. We'll head on to some of the semiconductors here in a second. But as for IWM, another indice that is leading the market higher. So if you look onto this daily time frame, IWM has been fairly solid here, breaking above our all-time highs, maintaining above key levels. And now we're just holding market structure. So SMH and IWM have been moving nicely back towards the upside. So key levels for the IWM, as you can see, are just these old kind of higher low pivot points, break above, retest continuation, break above, retest continuation higher. Now for IWM, the levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be this high that we created on Tuesday. We can mark this out and we can drag this over. I like this 262.50 key level. So for longs, right, pullback longs off our 262.50 for this continued push towards the upside. Another possible scenario above our previous day, pre-market highs for this continuation higher here. So this is what we have for the IWM coming to market open, short-term play underneath this 262.50. So this is what we have for the IWM coming to market open. Now we can go on to some tech names and then we'll head on to some other names here in a second. If you guys do have any charts, you guys can now drop them in the chat. I'll go over some Mag 7 names and then we'll head on to some of these other semiconductors here as well. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Do you have any videos? Yes, on my second channel in regards to drawing my key areas and price. You can check out my second channel for that. Also, I am doing trade recaps, going over exactly what I'm looking for, the thought process, just everything on my second channel. If you guys haven't checked that out, I'm posting daily on that one. Okay. Let's go on to Tesla first. So Tesla here, we're kind of just, I wouldn't say consolidating, but you can see we're in a downtrend. Overall market's reclaiming above key levels. Tesla showing a little bit more weakness here now, breaking underneath our previous day lows, which is our 444. And now we end up gravitating nicely down in towards our 438. A little bit of a gap up here. Now we're in between its previous day's range coming into today. So what we like to see here for Tesla, we're in between its previous day's range. We have our 444 marked out. We have our 438 marked out. These are going to be the key levels coming to market open. Longs above our previous day highs for continuation towards the upside. Another possible scenario, just consolidation, potential break later into the session. And of course, the bounce off our previous day lows is in play for some upside here as well. Downside is in play on Tesla underneath your 438, or now you're just looking for your previous day close. So this is for long side. For downside, you can be looking for the pop and fade off your 444. Another possible scenario, kind of this opening drive play for a push down in towards our previous day close. So this is what we have on Tesla coming into market open. Let's go on to Nvidia. So let's go into a couple of these semiconductors. As I mentioned, TSM, this is the one that had earnings, pushing a lot of these semis back towards the upside. As for Nvidia, so Nvidia also filled our gap that we created here not too long ago. Now what I like to see is if higher lows can be built here on Nvidia, and if we can reclaim back above key levels for this potential reversal on the daily chart. So for Nvidia, if we go into the lower timeframes here, you can see filled that daily gap here on the higher timeframes, and now we're having a little bit of a mean reversion. We're right back at the area that we broke down from. So you can see key level of support that turned into resistance. Now for Nvidia moving forward above our 185 here is going to be key for any sort of continuation higher. So let's go back onto the lower time frames. Key levels that I have marked out coming into market open is our 186.50 along with our 184. We're either looking for that longs above our 186.50, or now it's going to be the bounce play off our 184 for this continuation higher. If you're looking for downside, break underneath our previous day highs, reversal trade back towards the downside underneath that 184. Yeah, that's really it for downside, and that's what we have for Nvidia coming to market open. As I mentioned, we did fill that daily gap here, so now what I like to see is buyers step in for this potential continuation higher. If you look at AMD, this one continued to show strength. So we had some news here on AMD a couple of days ago. We also bounced off a key level support, as you can see here. Now for AMD, we're actually having this really solid push higher. So gap up with bullish news. We're holding above key levels. Bullish order flow here as well. Now for AMD, another gap up here on the, another gap up here coming to market open. Now what I like to see here for AMD, the next kind of key level that we have is your 234. So if we go back onto the lower time frames, the key levels that we can have marked out, let's kind of just readjust these. We can have our previous day highs marked out down in towards our Tuesday's highs. And then we're going to have to really mark out now. It's going to be the high that we created, 234. And we're going to have to mark out this high from back here, which is our 227. So for AMD coming to market open, we have a couple scenarios here. Number one, dip down in towards our 227 for this continuation back up in towards our 234. Another possible scenario, bounce all the way back down in towards that previous day highs for this continuation higher, or now for AMD, which is more likely to happen, the break above our 230 for this continuation up in towards our 234. So a couple scenarios here on AMD coming into market open. One of our more bullish tickers this week, as I mentioned with news earlier into the week, along with Intel. This one's just been holding up. Nice bounce off our previous day lows here yesterday, and now we're just continuing higher. So AMD, one of the main tickers to keep an eye out for continuation. You can actually see it's the only green ticker on the day yesterday as well. So a little bit of relative strength, as you can see. So this is what we have for AMD. Downside is really only in play underneath that 227. I would not be interested in looking for downside here on AMD. Much rather be looking for pullback longs for continuation higher. All right, so that's what we have for AMD. As for the rest of the tickers, Apple consolidation, not really too much to talk about here. Google still holding up, so I love Google. Higher time frame, still fairly bullish. What I wanted to see was the hold of your 334 yesterday. Overall market's dropping, so came down, held your 331. Now we're reclaiming back above key levels. So levels that we can have marked out on Google, we can mark out our all-time highs. And now what we can have marked out here as well is your previous day highs, which is your 336. So a couple levels here on Google, bounce off our previous day highs for this continuation towards upside. Another possible scenario, longs above our pre-market high for this push up and towards our all-time highs. Or longs would be all the way back down and towards our 334. So I personally like either the previous day high, longs, or above your pre-market highs for Google. Higher time frame is still fairly bullish on this ticker, so that's something to keep in mind. Meta is showing a little bit of weakness. So we talked about that Meta previous day low retest, broke outside of this range that we talked about not too long ago. Now we can expect some continuation lower. Opening drive play underneath their previous day lows was in play for Meta yesterday. After this big push lower, shorts below your previous day lows. You can see Meta actually end up having a super solid retest right off this 624 for this continuation towards the downside. If you look at this on the daily chart, Meta is actually, showing a little bit of weakness, kind of rejected off its daily gap, broke underneath this period of consolidation. Technically, you'd like to see some buyers step in off this 620. If no buyers step in, it could see a push all the way back down towards 580. That's not out of the picture. So for Meta, that's what we have. For Amazon, a little bit of pullback here. Microsoft breaking underneath its key level here as well. So for Microsoft, short-term play underneath are 464. So that's something to keep in mind. You can see nice kind of immediate retest yesterday underneath that 464. As long as you can maintain underneath this key level, we can expect continuation lower. And then for Netflix, a little bit of a fade yesterday here. So that's what we have for the Mag 7. We just had some unemployment here as well. A little bit of a pop. As I mentioned, I'd like to see that pullback long. Okay, waiting for the unemployment claims here. If you guys do have any charts, any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. You need to remove Apple from the Mag 7. It never moves. Apple never moves regardless. It's more something for long-term investments. Very rarely will it have a lot of intraday movement unless it has some sort of news or some sort of higher time frame thesis. Okay, unemployment numbers came out lower than expected, forecasted 215, actual 198. So that's good for the overall markets. Now we're just looking for pullback longs. So for the overall indices, let's kind of go over the game plan once more coming to today. For the NQ, we reclaim back above our previous day highs and your Tuesday's lows, right? Pullback longs above our previous day highs for this continuation towards the upside. This is going to be my main game plan coming to market open. Yes, similar kind of game plan. We have your pullback longs back down and towards our previous day highs, or now it's going to be above our 6,900. So that's what we have for the SPY along with the QQQ coming into market open. Some of my main watches here going to be AMD, of course, just because higher time frame bullish. We have room up and towards our 234. Nvidia's been lagging behind, so I'm not really that interested. This has been the semiconductor that has been lagging the overall market. So not really that interested here on Tesla. Google, I like pullback longs offer previous day highs for continuation. And then some other names that are holding up, at least from the Mag 7. So honestly, the Mag 7 still lagging behind the overall markets. Really the only thing that looks good here is AMD along with Google that's still holding up. Now let's go on to a few other tickers here. We'll head on to MU, TSM, and Intel just because the semiconductors have been quite hot. As for Palantir, we're stuck inside this consolidation, break above our 181 for continuation higher. If we want to see some downside, either the pop and fade are now underneath that 174. So these are the levels that we have marked out. Keep an eye out on your 181 along with that 178. Now let's just head on to Intel and a few of these other tickers here. So for Intel, higher time frame, very much bullish. One of my favorite looking tickers. I talked about this last week. A higher time frame breakout. We have room up and towards our 50 key psych level. If you look on this on the weekly time frame, we are approaching our higher time frame objective, which is our 50 key psych. Intel still very much holding up. Nice breakout last week. Every single dip so far being bought up. And now we're holding above key levels here as well. So for Intel, let's go back onto the lower time frames. Key levels that we have marked out, 4820s. Other levels we can have marked out here now. Let's just mark this out. which is going to be that 49.40. So coming into today here for Intel, what we have is your Tuesday's highs, and we also have our previous day highs essentially marked out. Or actually, we can drag this down. What we can have here is your 49 previous day highs. So for Intel coming into today, above your previous day highs, continuation towards the upside. Another possible scenario, bounce play off our Tuesday's highs for this continued push higher here as well. So two scenarios for Intel for some upside. As I mentioned, key targets 50 along with our 50-60. Those are our main targets for Intel. I do like this one, so keep that in mind. As for TSM, let's take a look at this. So we had some earnings in the pre-market, gapping up, really pushing the SMH higher towards the upside. Now for TSM, it's going to be based off of intraday price action. If you look at this on the daily time frame, very much bullish. Right, higher lows are being built. We talked about this for a while. I mentioned keep in mind on TSM, we've been consolidating. Once we broke above this, you can see nice retest, essentially above our 310 for this continuation. And now we're having this another gap up with earnings. So let's see if we can get that continuation once again here on TSM. So key levels coming to today for TSM. What we're going to have marked out is going to be that pre-market highs, which is our 350 key psych level. And now we're gonna have to go into the lower time frames. Lower time frames, I'm just gonna mark out some down close candles here. 5-minute order blocks. If you go back onto the 15-minute chart, so key levels for TSM coming to market open, right? Keep this in mind, right? It does have earnings, so you don't really wanna chase price if it has a huge pop towards the upside. What we're gonna be looking for is a dip and rip or any sort of IV flush. So for TSM, you have a couple scenarios today, either just that opening drive play towards the upside on TSM, either looking for that push right off the bat or above your 350 or kind of this hold of your 340s for this continuation higher here as well, right? What I wouldn't be looking for is your pre-market high retest, just because it's very hard after earnings. You already have such a big push up. Look for that pre-market high retest. IV is going to be super high. Contracts usually don't move that good as well. If you're interested, look for pullback longs for a push up in towards your pre-market highs instead of looking for that pre-market high retest. So that's something to keep in mind here on TSM. As for MU, still holding up here as well. Higher time frame looks fairly bullish. All right, higher lows are still being built on TSM. Break above our 347.50s. Higher time frame break and retest above our 347.50s is in play. So for MU coming to market open, keep an eye out on your 347 break above retest continuation towards upside, or consolidation break later into the day for this push higher here as well. So this is what we have for some of the semiconductors. As I mentioned, these are fairly bullish. Intel, TSM, and MU still look really, really solid. SMH, you can see, is about to make a brand new high coming into market open, and it seems like the spine keys is making a brand new high here as well. So for the overall markets, right, just keep an eye out on the key levels that we have marked out. Previous day highs on the QQQ. Of course, pullback longs are in play, right? Do not try and chase longs right off the bat, right? Let's see what happens within the first 5 to 10 minutes of market open. If we do want to push higher, right, then we could be looking for the trade up and towards our 696, right? QQQ are 628, but preferably we like to see that pullback long, as I mentioned, for longs towards the upside. Yeah, so that's about it for me today. AMD, as I mentioned, Google look good on the Meg 7, and then the rest of the semiconductors look super solid. MU, TSM, and Intel for some more upside. So that is going to be it for me today. Let's see. Meta, yes, I already go over most of the tickers earlier on the Meg 7, and I just kind of go down the watch list. So all these names I can see on the right-hand side, I usually already go over. So you can definitely look back on the live stream to see that. Yeah, besides that, I am going to get ready for market open here now. So if you guys did enjoy that, I appreciate it. If you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. With that being said, I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.